All right, folks, I am so excited for this video. We are unboxing Oak Street Bootmaker's new Mills boot. And when I've not seen these boots yet. When I first saw them online, I was blown away by the specs. First of all, they look beautiful, but of course, the thing that jumps out most about them is just the value and the value proposition. You know, the marketing was great, I think, for it, albeit not that aggressive. But if you were paying attention, you know, you could see that they're clearly they're almost undercutting their own boots in a way. And they're going like, here's an extremely great value boot. It's got a leather heel counter, a leather toe puff, and just beautiful sidle leathers, really nice Vibram sole, Barber leather flat welt, or some kind of Goodyear welt. Anyway, so let's open these boots. I got two pairs, and I'm only gonna keep one. But there we go. Made in USA, Oak Street Bootmakers, Chicago, Illinois. Okay. Simple cardboard, paper. Okay. Wow, you still get these. You still get a boot bag for, $350. They're on sale now for $280. Oh my God, I always get nervous. I get nervous. Here we go. Oh my God. Okay. Let's not sound too giddy. Let's be, unbiased, and, God, this is a beautiful boot. Okay, so far, first thoughts. God, that's a really nice flat welt. First thoughts, haven't even seen the second boot. Already hitting it out of the park value. Looks even better in person, in my opinion. Everything I expected and wanted from this boot. Okay, we'll take a deeper dive. Maybe there's more going on. That's just my first glance. First thoughts. Okay, this is the... what is this? The Prairie. This is the medium brown leather. These are all from Seidel. There's a tobacco. I got these. So this is the medium brown. It's not the lightest. This is not tobacco, although it kind of looks like tobacco. Let me check. This is the Trail Crazy Horse. Okay, yeah. So this is their version of a Crazy Horse leather, which already I like more than your classic Crazy Horse. I think of a lot of those Chippewa boots were Crazy Horse leather, but Crazy Horse is just a really nice kind of buffed, sanded down, almost a nubuck. It's like a waxed nubuck, but looks and appears mostly like just a regular flesh leather. But yeah, it's got a sanding feel, and it has sort of these. It always tends to have really nice pull up, and this feels a bit of like a drier Crazy Horse, but I like it a lot. Okay, my God, this is insane. These boots are really, really nice, and we'll get into it. I thought they were saving money by not having a midsole, but there is a midsole. Okay, it must not be a leather midsole, because they don't say anything about that in the ad. Now, there is no leather heel stack. That's another, another way they could save some money. The hardware, just at first glance, is really nice, really, really nice, kind of on par with like what White's does. Wow, God, I haven't been this excited about a new boot in a while. I also haven't gotten a new boot in a while. Okay, we are going to unbox the second pair. I've not seen these either. This is the leather that I was most excited about. This is the tobacco rough out. Also Seidel, and we'll talk about, I think, Seidel is the perfect kind of working man's Horween in a way. I don't know the actual pricing differences, but Seidel, I think, is a bit more affordable than Horween. And, that's probably very generally speaking, but if you have a CXL versus a double shot, the double shot usually is a little bit more affordable. Okay, let's just open these up and we'll talk about them. Again, these really nice boot bags, which again, I just, would not expect that. Okay. Wow. Okay, just as happy about these. But again, I'm going to look at them a lot closer and we'll see. My God. there's something, they used a lot of like 1940s and 50s kind of post World War II marketing for these. Talking about, I mean, they in the ad, in the description, they kind of talk about the post World War II period and how boots were basically made. They were just given the best value. They weren't cheap, but they weren't expensive, and they were kind of that perfect value of just getting you the best possible boot. Also, okay, first glance, something I just noticed. I'm just going to talk about my real-time thoughts. This dip in here, this contouring here is really, really nice. That's not something that, I don't think that's something you get in like an Iron Ranger or something. And this is a version of arch support. Of course, it's not upward arch support, but it's side arch support. When it hugs the middle of your foot like that, that is giving your foot kind of support. Okay, really nice triple stitching. I like the back stays a lot. I'm kind of a sucker for that design. It's a little bit wider, or at least just maybe the boot is kind of folded in, actually. But yeah, it reminds me of your classic Chippewa, your classic, just a classic service boot. Really, a lot of the high-end Japanese, like real McCoys, their version of a motorcycle service boot has that, probably your Sears and Roebuck 1960s service motorcycle boot, or motorcycle boot or service boot would have that. Okay. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful leather. They're using just a kind of pebbled grain leather for the tongue. Doesn't match, but it's really nice. It works really well to me. Now, I thought that was, no, that's just the lace. I'm looking for flaws. The stitching is wonderful at first glance. It's not perfect, nor what I expect it to be, but it's really, really good for the price. Now, what is Oak Street Boots doing here? People always talk about the Iron Ranger killer. This is Iron Ranger killer. This is it. I mean, I would still tell people to get, this looks like the leather's folded up, but it's not. This is the flat lace. I keep thinking that. Like, is the leather folded up? No, it's not. Oh my God. Wow, these are so nice. These remind me a lot of the Chippewas. I think there was a while where you could get kind of a Chippewa service boot, but these already have nicer finishing than Chippewa ever had. Chippewa was always like just wild, pretty bad finishing, but it was almost part of the charm. Let's examine these. So you've got a bit of like a crease there, I guess, or a mark there, signs of the machine, signs of the craft. Really, 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 really strong here. Very robust, and that's, again, a leather heel counter. I love these Vibrams kind of nitro cork outsoles. They're just classic. The like kind of slight brown and then seeing a bit of the cork in the rubber is just, to me is just beautiful. 5 eyelets, 3 speed hooks, perfect. The rolled top, again, like that. Why isn't it a cut top? I keep looking for how they saved money on these, and the only thing I could arrive at is, I guess, the leathers, like it's Seidel, and then the finishing is going to be less perfect than their Lakeshore boot or their trench boot, but it's just so, and then they come with flat wax laces instead of leather laces. I don't know. My God. Okay, so that's the inside of that tobacco rough out. Now you can see, there's a bit of edge there that maybe on a higher end boot that extra bit of leather would be, wouldn't be there. It would be skived down. The stitch would be finer. Same with here. You've got that extra bit of leather that, again, on a finer boot, that'll be cut a little bit more perfect. These are really nice. There's no sharpness here. They're not going to eat into your tongue like a lot of Red Wings. So again, that's like one up on a Red Wing. I'll do maybe a proper versus Red Wing, but the only Iron Ranger I have is rebuilt by Wyatt and Dad. So that's kind of a tough, but maybe I'll borrow friends. So semi-gusseted tongue right here. So it's gusseted up until about the 4th eyelet. So about here. That's your water line, all right? Really, that's your water line, Really, don't intentionally step in water. Trying to understand what's happening here, definitely not. I don't think it's a genuine, quote unquote, genuine toe cap. which again allows them to use, you need smaller panels of leather. Okay. That must be another slight factor, that saves them a couple bucks, but again, not a bad thing. It's just, and there's a leather toe puff. So it's almost like, instead of a elastic toe, which most brands will use, or unstructured, they've got an actual leather, veg tan leather toe puff and a veg tan. I don't know how they did this. This is like Grantstone level construction without the Grantstone level finishing, but made in the USA for right now. They're still $280, $278 or something. This is crazy. This is so cool. I love a good value boot, as you can hear in my voice. Like, I love really high end boots, and I famously made a video called "I'm Sick of Cheap Boots," which was after I got some made in Mexico boots for like $150, and they just really disappointed me. Ultimately, a boot inspires you or doesn't inspire you, and these, from when they kind of first came out with them about a week and a half ago or so, around Black Friday, I was really intrigued by them, and then seeing these in person, I'm even more thrilled and impressed. This is really everything I ever wanted from a Chippewa, but they're still being made. These are being made, Chippewas are not. And it's a finer boot than a Chippewa. Now, I imagine this midsole is it must be a rubber, which is fine. There's no way there's no way it's a veg tan insole. Or is it? I don't know. I mean, it looks like leather, but I just doubt it. It can't be. Also, I think they would have put that kind of in the marketing. Now, what is the? Okay, so let's take this. There's some paper in here. It's a leather insole, veg tan leather insole, and then a kind of your just chrome tan. Looks like they're using the same leather as the tongue for a kind of a sock liner. And that's your leather. That's your internal. So you have an internal rough out leather heel counter. So I don't know. I think the internal is leather as well. When they talk about the leather heel counter, they're talking about the internal one. Same with the toe puff, but there is a dedicated rough out leather heel counter. Wow, beautiful. And you see that there's your tobacco flesh side. Now I imagine, of course, the clicking, the clicking would be different because they make a flesh side version of this as well. The eyelets are really, really nice. They're not quite old school Truman, R.I.P. But they remind me a lot of my White's boots eyelets, which again are, high-end boots. Yeah, antique brass eyelets. I don't know. I mean, even if this is a rubber midsole or some kind of, I don't think it's a leather, I don't think it's a veg tan midsole, but beautiful leather flat welt. The welt joint, not bad at all. Really nice rand. Really nice silhouette. Just your classic. And again, if you've watched my videos, I'm just a sucker for your classic surface boot. Now I'm trying to think what would disappoint me with these, or like if my excitement isn't merited, or what would upset me about these. I think ultimately if the pattern just didn't quite do it, if the last was a little bit unbecoming, I don't know. But out of the box, I'm blown away by these boots, and really, really impressed. Really happy. This is just that classic Apache. Now, okay, that's not a misstitch, which is good, but a finer boot would take the time and burn that off. That is not a misstitch. It looks like the sewing machine, it came to the end of the stitch and then kept going. It does not look like a missed stitch. There's no empty hole. Now, I'm sure if we look over this, will we find a missed stitch? I mean, you must. For this value, yeah, you kind of have to, right? I'm not seeing anything. Now, you could sort of see the rough kind of sanding of this leather. I would condition these just from the feeling. It's not it's not the oiliest leather. It's a nice oily leather, but it's not the oiliest leather. I would condition these after about a month of wear. That's the only thought of this leather. I love a kind of I love a working man's leather, but that's still super thick, and it just has a really robust feel to it, a very robust thickness to it, without having kind of your upcharge of a more expensive leather. Wow. Yeah. This is a working class boot. This is a working class boot that's made about as good as you can get a working class boot. Like if this was made overseas, I would be impressed with the value. But this is made in the U.S. And I think the jury's still out, but for the most part, Oak Street makes their boots in Texas with Rios and Mercedes. They're service style boots, and then their moccasins are for sure. They're made in Maine, probably by Rancourt, possibly by Quaddy. And they hide that. I don't know why. It might be something in the contract, because when Double RL makes their boots with Rios or Mercedes, they just say they're handmade in Texas in a very old factory. They don't name Rios. So I don't know if there's something about that in the contract, I don't know. But, if I was Oak Street, I'd be extremely proud that these boots are made in Texas, in an old factory. But for some reason, maybe they're just their Chicago brand. They kind of want all their boots to feel like a cohesive, not like they make one boot in Maine and one boot in Texas. But that's really cool in my opinion, be that, use the best factories in the U.S. Wow. I like this boot a lot more than I thought I would. It kind of looked a little bit more, it had like a bit more of a boring brown in the photos. Not a boring brown, but just, I don't know. It's just full of character. And my God. Now, the lasting, it's machine lasted, right? Again, that's another, but all their boots might be machine lasted. I'm not sure. But, that's another way how they're going to get that value. And you have this classic kind of puckered under machine lasted thing, where it's not perfect lasting because it's machine lasted. But you also have this, you'll have White's boots that'll look like that. Again, you got to remember, a White's boot, I've seen some of their MP Sherman boots, whatever those are called. They're hand lasted with that kind of like puckered edge over here. And, the sign of like a really high end leather jacket is going to be where you don't have that. But a lot of the A2 bomber jackets, that's how you can tell some of the cheaper ones, is the back is sort of cinched down into that belt. So that's what that reminds me of. But really, really nice. Like, again, nicer finishing than any Chippewa I've ever seen. And to make a boot in 2025 for, again, now they're $275. Once they're full price, it's still incredible value. They do offer a 10% off email sign up. You can totally do that. Insane value. I'm super stoked. I'm just like, it's fun to have a boot that you could kind of mindlessly recommend and just go, you'll great value. If you got, these both have really, really decent finishing, no massive mistakes that I'm seeing, no massive, the lasting, with a lot of the Chippewas, and then I've seen that in the Thorogood 1892 boots, and you see a lot in Red Wings, it's just crooked lasting. And these are really, really evenly lasted. So for a budget, quote unquote budget, machine lasted boot to be so evenly lasted is mind blowing. I could show you. I should cover my Thorogoods. I've got some 1892 boots, but that is a very evenly lasted boot. You have. Truman boots have been really struggling with their lasting. There've been a lot of crooked lasting. That's wild. Like this, right? You see this? This is like a machine lasted budget version of perfectly centered. Is it actually perfectly centered? Almost, not quite. But for a budget, made in USA, machine lasted service boot like this is perfect lasting. Insane. Wow. My God. Cool. I don't know. Should I say something critical? It's like, I'm trying to sound unbiased here. Now, yeah, I don't know. Wow. Yeah. I should mention that Oak Street sent me these boots. They did not say, they said specifically, like, don't thank us. We're not trying to shove these boots down anyone's throats. And I think I was talking to George, the owner, who seems really humble and really sweet. And he's like, I don't want people to feel like we're just trying to sell them boots. And I'm like, that's literally your job, is to try to sell people boots. But he had this great humility about him. He's like, you don't thank us. Just say what you think about the boots. And I have. If these boots were $500, yeah, let's say these boots are $500, I would have a harder time with this leather. You know, it feels appropriate. It does not feel like a really fine $500 leather. And again, for this, I would condition this. I would oil it up, you know, about a month into wear. I would wear it as is, and then, you know, yeah, I would have a harder time with that little stitch, you know, with the finishing, and then, you know, yeah, just some of the clicking. I mean, you know, that kind of thing. But for a $350 made in USA service boot that is now still on sale for $280, you know, and that kind of thing, you can see just the signs of the machinery and the hands that made this boot. This is by far the best. Now, Red Wing is still a great competitor. Red Wing does not have the midsole. Red Wing uses a leatherboard heel counter, a Celastic toe. Some of their leathers maybe are a little bit more high-end from SB Foot. Some of them are not. You know, you could kind of go either way with their leathers, but they're a bit more varied. I really love Seidel. Seidel to me just offers like an amazing, you know, their Seidel's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They're just a Great Lakes, you know, old American tannery. And they seem to be able to really hit the nail on the head with work boot leathers that are really high quality without, you know, without some of the maybe like more sophisticated beauty of some other leathers that Horween offers. You know, but even in their double shot is able to come in a bit more, you know, with a budget. Okay, here's I see maybe that's like a little bit crooked toe cap. Yeah, okay, that's not perfect, right? It's not bad. I've seen Red Wings that are much worse. Is that, you know, I don't know. Yeah, that's for sure good enough for me. Is it perfect? I don't know. Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I'm blown away. I'm done. This video's too long. They told me specifically not to thank them, so I won't thank them for sending me a pair of boots, but I will thank them for making a boot, trying to make a budget American-made boot. It's not easy, and that's why most brands can't do it and don't do it. You know, Red Wing really is the only one else that does this. You know, that is making just a badass service boot. Wow. I like these a lot more than I thought I would. I knew I'd be happy with them. The last really is what just really impresses me. The last is just like a lot. It has a bulbousness to it while still having an almond shapedness to it. Yeah, there you go. I mean, look at that. Look at that silhouette. And then again, that inner curve. I've not tried these on yet. I will try them on, and then I'll do that. I'll cover that in the next video. But this is just like unboxing, initial thoughts. And you could see that little, you know, kind of curve there. Again, I would not hope for or expect a perfectly finished boot. These are finished a lot nicer than kind of Thursday's high-end boots, like the Black Label stuff. The edge sandings, I was really rough on those. This looks nicer to me. Wow. Okay, that's it. So yeah, would I recommend these? For sure. It's a no-brainer. Who aren't these boots for? If you want a really fancy leather that's a little bit more, has a bit more depth, a bit more interesting, a bit more inspiring, you know, that'll patina in a like very specific way that's very predictable. I would say, yeah, maybe you want to hold out for a Chrome XL boot, which Oak Street offers, which of course, well, Truman doesn't offer anymore, but obviously you could get that from White's. Yeah, White's Stitch Down line is still, you know, their machine stitch down on sale is an amazing value. I love their hand lasted stuff, but that's just really high end. Who am I missing? That's making just great Parkhurst, of course, but they're making their stuff now in Spain and Portugal, which they're making beautiful boots, but they're no longer a made in USA boot. Caswell, those aren't made in USA either, right? Does Caswell have any made in USA boots? Who am I missing? Of course, there's who's competing with these aside from Red Wing? Yeah, Origin doesn't really make a service boot. Who am I missing? I'm looking around. I mean, Truman's kind of biting the dust, you know? All right. I'm going to do another video with maybe a bit more focused, but out of the box, really cool, very happy, blown away.